Hey, Christ Covenant, want to talk about where we're headed Sunday with the sermon series. So we're going to be beginning the book of Jonah, and over the next 4 weeks, we'll go chapter at a time. Basically, the breakdown may be a little different, but we'll essentially go Jonah 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to kind of see the theme in every chapter. You're going to see in chapter 1 a great storm. In chapter 2, you're going to see a great fish. In chapter 3, a great city, that being Nineveh. And then really, chapter 4, you're going to see a gracious God. You're going to see the fact that God is gracious to all peoples. But this week, we're going to be looking at Jonah 1. And this kind of begins the story of Jonah rebelling against God, rebelling against God's revealed word to him that he gets to go preach to the Ninevites. And so I just want us to even consider our own rebellion, how we have oftentimes rebelled against God's clearly revealed word to us, and how we are sinners. And then you'll see that God, due to Jonah's sin, will bring judgment upon rebellious people, particularly even this rebellious prophet Jonah. And so there will be this great storm that comes up. And you'll see, we'll talk about this some in the sermon, but there's this pattern in the Old Testament. It actually corresponds even with baptism, that the kind of storms or great floods, water is pictured as a sign of God's judgment. We see this with the flood with Noah. We see this with the Red Sea and the Egyptians. You see this pattern throughout, that God uses water as a means of pouring out judgment. And that's what he's going to do here. He's going to use the water and the storm, the great storm, as a way to judge the rebellion of Jonah. And yet, even in that, we're going to see the grace of God. We're going to see even in that the good news of the gospel, that God saves people through judgment. He has always done this with water. He saved Noah and a remnant through the flood. He saved the Israelites, his people, through the waters of the Red Sea. And then it even is pictured in us, that we have come through baptism. We have come through the judgment of God and come out safe on the other side. We see the grace of God to save even rebellious sinners. And we see this played out in the life of Christ. Christ will liken his cross to a baptism. This water will pour down upon him as the judgment of God due sins, even though he has not sinned, will be poured out on Christ. And Jonah is going to help us see this picture, that God pours out his judgment, and yet he saves people through that judgment. And so we'll come together and we will think seriously about our sin and our rebellion, but we'll also think seriously about the grace of God in the gospel. So look forward to seeing you. Read through Jonah 1, get familiar with the story, ask what is the author trying to say to us, what do we need to hear from the Lord on Sunday, and then let's come together and study. Look forward to seeing you then.